Here we go, College Football Payoff Podcast. We are back. It is week 12. Week 12?
Damn, week 12. And episode 69.
Yeah, let's go. Nice.
Nice.
That's Fuji. I'm Dan. Back again with another week. College football season is slowly, but surely winding down to the conclusion.
Thank God. Actually, no, not thank God, because I want as many games as possible. Once the season is over. But
Yeah.
I'm fighting. I'm back into a corner, just throwing haymakers to get out of this thing. So let's just keep it going.
Get out alive is all we need to do. I am somewhat excited. I mean, as you get deeper, and then rivalry week, obviously, Army Navy coming up, and then bowl season. Bowl season should be a good one. But right now, we're shifting our focus to the week before rivalry games start. And I've always thought that this has always been a tougher week to kind of get our bets in and find those locks, just because a lot of these spots you can see look ahead, big time look ahead, or you could see a team that, you know, you think they're going to look ahead, they don't, and they kind of mess you up. Obviously, the big ones are Ohio State, Michigan games where Ohio State's playing Minnesota, um, and all the other big rivalry games. It's kind of like, do you take those numbers, or what team is going to actually show up and produce?
Yeah,
What
who has
team is looking
motivation
ahead?
for what right now?
That's exactly what it is. So that's where I was kind of backed into a corner looking at everything. But I feel like I might have found some good locks. I got to go 3-0. I mean, I've been 2-1. Last week was 2-1, so that I'm up 18-17 overall. The wins for me last week: Purdue -1 against Minnesota. I mean, that was easy. They throttled Minnesota. The fact that that game opened Minnesota -1 is beyond me. But Purdue -1 was in West Virginia. Oklahoma was an easy win over 57. And then the loss that I had was that Florida State -14.5 against Miami. That game, I turned it on and it was just kind of, all right, let's go. Let's get the offense going. And it just never happened. And they were kind of okay with just stepping in, getting a win, and getting out. So 2-1 last week, 18-17 overall. Looking forward to this week. Uh, how you doing? You all right?
Tough. 1-2 last week. 15, 21, and 2 on the. So we got to fight. We got to fist fight to the end. But had Michigan State plus 31.5. Man, I said on this pod last week all we needed was 10 to 14 points from Michigan State, and they got 3.
Yeah.
That made all the difference.
And to piggyback on that too is that Ohio State just stopped scoring.
Yeah,
Second half they just stopped.
Yeah, I mean they had all the chance in the world to cover that game.
Man.
We had the backdoor opportunity, just like I said, and I guess the backdoor was locked. So shout out to state defense. That's a national championship caliber squad right there.
Yeah.
I mean the defense, not the offense. Just to be clear. And then maybe the worst pick I've given of the year. Oklahoma State -2.5 last week. I think they lost by fucking 40.
Mm-hmm.
So that was great. And then the one winner, Rutgers Iowa under 28.5.
Yes,
So
dude, that game was so much fun.
We'll take it. That's our dub. And you know what? I'm a sick man because I'm just gonna let it be known now. After Oklahoma State got the shit beat out of them last week, I'm betting Oklahoma State again this week. Let's go.
Oh my God, let's go. That's a maniac. You know what? Billy was on you last week with Oklahoma State as well. He gave himself a 1-week ban. He said this week.
I respect that.
He said, "Listen, I got to get here. I can't
that.
after that." So he's giving himself a 1-week ban.
Respect Billy.
There we go. So he's going to come back strong next week. I told him he better start bringing it. But
I need a back-to-back 3-0. I almost started just firing on the board this week just to get my record back. But you know what? We're gonna just be precise, and we're gonna finesse a winning season this year. We got this week. We got next week. We got conference championship week.
an Army Nate.
Army Navy. Automatic under.
Yep.
Well, I mean, we won't be recording a pod for Army Navy. Um, and then bowl season, and then playoff season. So we got opportunity to get back here. So we're down by we're 6 games back from 500. We got this. We got this. And I got a great card this week already. Already gave you the preview with Oklahoma State.
Sweet. All right. Do you want to, well, real quick, anything jump out of you last week? Anything you've learned, anything you picked up on, or do you just want to get right into it?
Well, I'll run down the board real quick here. The Oklahoma State game obviously
Mm-hmm.
um stuck out to me. Um you know what? SMU just keeps rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Really like SMU. I had a West Virginia lean last week that sucked. I think Georgia's peaking at the right time. Michigan impressive. Florida State not. Fraud state. Whatever you
Yeah.
call 'em.
Jesus.
Florida State frauds.
Yeah.
Washington held on strong against Utah. I thought they were in jeopardy there. And then Oregon played tough. Bo Nix, 412 yards, 4 touchdowns. I'm liking my 25-1 ticket. But
Yeah.
you know what else is popping up? I do not like uh, the media. Even after Jaden Daniels lost to Alabama, they're still trying to push that Heisman narrative. Man, listen, I know Johnny Manziel won it. I know Lamar Jackson won it. I know RG3 had it, won it. All of those guys had Heisman moments. All of those guys had Heisman moments, like just a defining Heisman moment, whether it was Johnny Manziel beating um, Alabama, whether it was RG3 with that crazy night game in Baylor that solidified it for him, whether it was Lamar Jackson hurdling dudes and just being Lamar Jackson. Um, Jaden Daniels had the chance at Heisman moment, and he folded. And that was when he got the concussion against Alabama.
Yeah.
Man, you're down 2 touchdowns, you come back, win that game, you get the Heisman. But you know what? You took a little sack, just like every other quarterback does, and you folded like a, you know.
So yeah,
So
I
I'll be pissed if Jaden Daniels wins the Heisman. I think it's Penix and Bo Nix head to head, and that'll be decided in the Pac-12 championship.
and not to be biased, but I think that they're gonna try to push to have Marvin Harrison Jr. at least go to New York.
I
He's not gonna win it, but
I have a 20-1 ticket on Marvin Harrison Jr. If he's at New York, no problem.
3 touchdowns in the first half last week. I
Yeah,
mean,
I have.
but so speaking of that, Jaden Daniels, like going through Twitter today, I did find something where it's like your narrative that you said, where the media is trying to push it. This tweet goes: Jaden Daniels is having a better season than any Heisman winner since 2012, other than Joe Burrow, and it lists it all, and it's like 408 yards a game, 4,000 total yards, which is actually to this point it's worse than anyone else that has won the Heisman. 230 points is middle of the pack. Like the only thing that he's really sticking out with is yards per game. But
Yeah, and then they are padding the hell out of his stats. Look at his last 2 games. His last 2 games have doubled his season total rushing yards.
mhm,
Like I don't. I mean, they're just stat padding him at this point. Like,
yeah, I know
chill
it's
out, Brian Kelly. I mean, I I don't know. They play Georgia State this week.
yeah, it's your
They're
weekly.
just gonna stat pad more. He's gonna have 400 yards passing and 100 yards rushing.
Yep.
He's gonna finish the season with over 4,000 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing. That's great and all. I love that LSU could, make sure his stats are great against, the shitty schedule they play when they're not in the SEC. But you know, his Heisman moment could have been Alabama. It could have been against Ole Miss. It could have been against Florida State. And guess what? He folded all three of them. So if you're gonna give that guy the Heisman, I am officially boycotting getting that award for until next year.
Heisman, you're on watch right now. You better step up because you're gonna lose a big
Oh,
better in the Heisman.
and I got Bo Nix 25-1, Marvin Harrison Jr. 20-1. Just give me something.
All right,
Let's get into this thing.
let's jump into it. Well, you already gave us a little tease. Did you want to go ahead and start with that or what?
Yeah, I'll just start with it. Even after getting their fast beat last week, and my computer's not loading as fast as I want it to right now. Um, man, Oklahoma State still controls their destiny. They're 7-3, and you know what team I love fading is Houston. I love fading Dana Holgerson and his sorry ass coaching style and the half-ass program that he runs. Um, I don't know, man. You look at Oklahoma State; they won a bunch of coin flip games coming down the stretch. Whether that was, well, maybe not coin flippy, but they had a tough run. They beat Kansas, had to go to West Virginia, beat them, played newcomer Cincinnati, handled them, and then the Bedlam game they won. So that was the perfect recipe for a letdown spot. Even though I said f that letdown spot last week, I'll own it. But guess what? I'm doubling down. Just they know it's at risk. They got to win this game. Just they still control the destiny. They got to win this game, and they got to win the next one to get to the Big 12 championship. And I think that's very well known in their minds. Um, a lot of the players that they had showing up last week just didn't show up. A lot of them were quit the game early, and that's okay. Let's get that a few extra hours of rest. Let's get back on the field. And to be honest, I just don't see. Houston's kind of on quit watch right now. They lost last week to a terrible Cincinnati team at home. So, um, Houston's schedule looking forward. They got Oklahoma State who they'd have to beat, and then they have to beat UCF back to back to even reach bowl eligibility. Uh, I've never liked a Dana Holgerson team. Obviously, um, Dana Holgerson is just a bet against coach for me. They won their Super Bowl 2 weeks ago when they beat Baylor in overtime by one. Give me Oklahoma State, who still at least even after getting their ass beat last week, at least has the motivation to still be able to make it to this Big 12 championship game, and they can't drop one. I mean, if they lose this week, Oklahoma's going to jump them and end up playing Texas again. So yeah, give me the Pokes, give me Mike Gundy, and give me a guy who I wouldn't be mad if he got sent to New York and Ollie Gordon. So
Yeah, so I mean, right there, you got a team that, as you alluded to, is still in the hunt for their championship, their conference championship game, so they got something to play for. That's basically a 180 of my first game, and that's this Penn State Rutgers game. So we know the documented unsuccessful run that Penn State has had against Ohio State, Michigan, and sometimes Wisconsin throughout the years, where James Franklin cannot win the big games, right? So last week it ends up costing them. They're basically done with the Big Ten. They really have no shot to go to the Big Ten championship. Um, and they're going on and trying to bounce back after a loss to Michigan last week, playing this Rutgers team that was it Rutgers. I mean, they've hung with Wisconsin and Ohio State. They hang with these teams. They're a scrappy team. They're feisty. Right now, it's 20.5 points. So when I first looked at this, I thought, all right, the total's easy. It's 41. I think that you smash the total with that game. I think there's a lot of points. Basically, Penn State being upset that they lost, but Rutgers wanting to come out and prove that they're still relevant. Now I'm kind of looking at Rutgers plus 20.5. I think that's too many points to give a team that cannot win the big games, and they could kind of overlook this as seeing, oh, it's not an Ohio State or Michigan team, but Rutgers is not a team that you want to overlook. So I'm going to kind of talk myself through this and see which side I'm going to take here. Uh, when I start to talk about this, the first thing that I think about with Penn State is, will the offense be able to score 21 more points than the other team? Usually it's, yeah, they're good enough to do that, but after last week, Penn State fires their offensive coordinator. They're looking to finish on a high note, get to 10 wins. I think after firing an offensive coordinator with a young quarterback in Drew Aller, that's going to pose a lot of issues for this team's offensive production.
yep.
Um, so that's why I'm going towards, I'm going to go Rutgers plus 20.5 in this game.
Okay.
Um, Listen, and it's when I watch the Big Ten, I try to watch as much Big Ten as I can because that is my conference. And every week I feel different about this Rutgers team. It's like that's like Ohio State playing Purdue the past years when I was in college, was, man, I'm scared about Purdue. I don't know, is Purdue going to beat us this week? Now I'm starting to feel that with Rutgers. Like, dude, is Rutgers going to pull off the upset this week against Penn State, against Michigan, against Ohio State? And it's never, oh, Rutgers sucks. It's like they're making a name for themselves. So I like this Rutgers team. They passed the eye test for me. Um, I talk about Drew Aller. He struggles against elite opponents. Last week he was 10 of 22 for 70 yards, and he's got to run more, but I think he's pressing on himself to do more. The Penn State offense, they're good against inferior opponents.
Hmm.
Um, I don't see Rutgers as being an inferior opponent in this game. I think Rutgers comes out. Listen, we know Penn State's more talented. We know they're more balanced at home. They should be favored. Yeah, that's fine. This is way too many points to give a team in Rutgers that has a top 20 defense. I like Rutgers to cover. I like them to keep it close. Um, yeah, I feel like this is a no-brainer. I'm still going to take the over in it, but for the official pod pick, I'm going Rutgers plus 20.5 in this game. I think that this is just going to be, I think Rutgers comes out and they play with their hair on fire, and a team who loses their offensive coordinator usually within 1 week, you're not going to fix your problem. So give me Rutgers plus 20.5.
Yeah, man. I I don't know if Penn State. What's more demoralizing than losing last week is getting ran on 32 straight times.
I know the entire second half they did not throw a pass.
Yeah.
Like that's
Also,
crazy.
respect to Michigan for doing that. But it's a little bit flawed. Let's realize they did throw the ball that one time in that streak, and it got I got called, so it took it off the table. So it's a little bit tainted, but also
So
that's
was
also.
McCarthy, was he hurt?
Mm-mm.
So you're
I don't
telling me
think
that
I don't think it's hurt.
people are trying to pump up his Heisman
I mean,
candidacy,
we
and
said it on the show weeks ago how fraudulent that
yeah.
was,
So
and
then you're gonna
that's why we went back and started betting the Heisman again. Is because once we saw JJ McCarthy like minus 150 to win the Heisman, I was like, no effing way.
yeah, you're not gonna run 30 plus times in the second half with a Heisman
Absolutely
quarterback.
not.
Yep. So that's
Okay, I have an emergency betting alert. You better go do this now. There's only 1.5 left. Yeah, it's on the ESPN Bet app.
oh jeez.
Sponsor us, maybe. Um, Yeah, I'm taking Kansas State to cover the 7.5 against Kansas this week. Kansas State to me is, man, it's really a damn shame that they didn't get to play Oklahoma this year because I truly think Kansas State is the second best team in the Big 12 behind Texas. Texas effed around and almost found out against them, lost in overtime. Uh, and then Kansas's other losses are to Missouri and at Oklahoma State on a Friday, where statistically they did everything they should have to beat them, but still ended up losing 29-21. Got caught off guard right when Oklahoma State started playing football this year. So all these losses to me are forgivable. None of these losses have been at home. They are on the road again at Kansas, but man, if there was any time to fade Kansas, just like there was a time to fade Oklahoma State, it was also last week. Ended up losing to Texas Tech 16-3 after going on that run of beating Iowa State and Oklahoma. That was a good fade spot for Kansas, and I think I'm going to go back to it mostly because one, Jalen Daniels, they're supposed to be starting quarterback. I'm pretty sure is transferring. He'll be in the portal, and Jason Bean, the guy that's been carrying this team going forward, man, he got rocked last week. And they're saying he's supposed to start. I don't think well, even if he does start, even better, because I think he's hurt. And if we're down to Kansas's backup quarterback against or third string against what I believe is the second best football team in the Big 12, I'll definitely go with the Wildcats here. I love Will Howard. And, I think he can do what needs to get done to cover the 7.5. And it's a lot. You better go get it now because this game's going
Yeah.
to go to 8.5.
Yeah, it's 8.5 everywhere I'm looking. Yeah, with that, I mean, I was looking at it. Uh, in past years, I've always been a big Kansas State backer when they were underdogs. They've won me some money on money lines, pretty big money lines.
Yeah, they
Um,
have against Oklahoma twice.
yep.
Yep.
And this is it's a night game in Kansas. So it was kind. I was kind of like, man, I don't know. I feel like Kansas is playing good, but one thing that I started to think about was early in the year, coaches were saying Kansas is now a football school. Well, it's basketball season now, and Kansas is a basketball school. So I really don't see the hype
Yeah, let's
staying
not get
with
it
the Kansas.
twisted.
Yeah, I don't see the hype sticking with Kansas football when basketball's starting up. I just feel like that energy at that stadium is not going to be in the right place, and I like Kansas State. Um, yeah, I think Kansas had their good little, couple week run there, but I think it's over for them. Basketball time for that school. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go with the newly ranked number one team. That's Georgia. They're taking on Tennessee on the road. This is at a 10 right now, I believe. Let me see. Let me make sure it's still at 10. But I'm taking Georgia to win the game and cover the spread. Now I'm just talking until I find the spread because it's not popping up. Yeah, so it is 10, moving up to 10.5 here. I'm taking Georgia and the points. Georgia's proven that they've been able to handle their competition. This is the I say this a lot, but really is a tale of two teams here. Um, Look at last week with what Georgia did. The offense for Georgia is in their prime right now. Ole Miss last week. Listen, their defense is good. They give up yards, but it's their defense prides themselves on getting into the backfield, being disruptive, kind of ripping through an offense. Georgia flipped the script on them. They put up 611 yards. They were almost perfect with their balance. And the big reason why is the offensive line at Georgia is just dominant. I mean, they're giving Carson Beck hours back in the pocket. And when you give a quarterback of that caliber time to work, he's going to be able to pick you apart left and right. When you let your quarterback work, your running backs are going to break off their big runs, and it makes it easy for them when they do get to third down. Last week proved it. Um, their deliberate style, they keep hammering, they kind of chisel away their opponents. Um, yeah, and with Tennessee, this is kind of where their style kind of works against what Georgia wants to do. Tennessee's offense it's it's kind of like a rock rolling down a hill. When they're rolling, they're going fast. They're making the opponent kind of play out of their comfort zone. Man, they can be dominant. Um, but in order for that to work, they can't have wasted opportunities. That's a big problem with this team. They're going to waste a lot of opportunities. Um, and also, Georgia's fourth in the nation at time of possession, and they could have the ball in this game for close to 40 minutes. I mean, when you face a team that has tempo and you keep the ball away from them for that long, they can't get into that groove. It's not about that Georgia's gonna come out and kind of score 60 and all that stuff. They're gonna get their two touchdown lead. They're gonna roll away with it. I think it's too much for Tennessee. It's a different team out there. Like Tennessee's rolling. That it's a good year. They're 6-0 when it runs for. So this is the stat that kind of freaks me out though, is that Tennessee is 6-0 on the year when they run for 4 yards or more, and they're 0-3 when they don't.
4.
4 yards per carry.
Oh, per carry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, no,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. If they had 4 yards of
I'd be
offense,
like,
man, that's
damn, that's a
crazy.
low barrier.
No, when they average 4 yards per carry, they're 6-0. But when they don't get to that mark, they're 0-3. Georgia has allowed 4 yards per carry in 5 games this year, all against teams that can run. So that's where I'm kind of iffy. But listen, Georgia's the team to beat. Um, I just don't see this going any other way. I think Georgia takes the tempo away from Tennessee. They make this game their game. Tennessee doesn't get into the fast-paced offense that they want to. I think Georgia's offensive line just demolishes Tennessee's defensive line, gives Carson Beck time, and they just keep rolling into the next week and then the conference championship. So Georgia -10 at Tennessee. That's the pick for me. I feel like that's 2-0 right off rip.
Okay. For my last pick, I'm staying in the state of Georgia,
Okay.
and I'm laying the points with the 5-5 Georgia Yellow Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, not the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets at home night game against a team that I watched very closely last week and just know for a fact they are fraudulent. They still might make a bowl. We're fading the heck out of Syracuse this week. And Georgia Tech is going down swinging to make it to a bowl game because you know who they play next week? In rivalry week?
Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah.
So it's now or never for Georgia Tech. Do you want to make a bowl game or do you not want to make a bowl game? Coming down the stretch to reach bowl eligibility, you've beaten Miami by 3 and North Carolina by 4. You guys have fought. You guys have been all out brawls ready to take this bowl eligibility to the next level under the first year head coach. Um, and man, just watching Syracuse last week, let me give you a little stat line. Um, the leading passer in the whole Syracuse Pitt game last week, 12 yards. 12 yards. And guess who it was? Syracuse's tight end had 12 passing yards, and that was the leading passer in the whole game last week. Syracuse lined up against Pitt in Yankee Stadium. That's the only reason I bet them.
Yeah.
Um, and ran Wildcat like the whole effing game. Pitt is so bad right now, you know. I That's just like nothing to hang your hat on. I mean, that was their first win in 6 games for Syracuse. They're going right back to losing, and they still might have a chance for bowl eligibility. At the end of this year or next week, they have Wake Forest at home. So instead of making your bowl eligibility night in Georgia Tech Stadium, which is a pretty hard place to play, um, I think Syracuse, who doesn't actually have a real offense, is just going to chalk it up and go to Wake Forest next week and get it. So I think Georgia Tech gives it all they have, knowing they have Georgia next week. And I like Haynes King quarterback, Texas A&M transfer, and I just like how this Georgia Tech team has been playing down the stretch. So I'll take Georgia Tech -6.5, and whatever happens, happens.
So whatever happens, happens.
This is I will just make a claim right now. This is the most I've loved my podcast picks all year. So
Good.
I know I'm 15, 21, and 2, but I do expect to be sitting here next week at 18, 21, and 2 within, 3 games back, ready to make that late season push. It starts this week. It's my back's up against the wall. Fuji bets doesn't fold under pressure.
Feeling it. Feeling it. Well, I'm glad you said it because I'm kind of feeling that with mine too. Now this last one, this was a little bit of a surprise. So we got Oregon against Arizona State,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where this game's 4 o'clock at Arizona State. How many points do you before have you looked at a spread or a total or anything
On which
on Oregon Arizona State? Do you know what the total is? Right off the
no
top of your head. Okay,
Oregon no.
real quick. Bo Nix, you got the Heisman ticket on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many points do you think they could put up this week potentially?
Arizona State's fight's tough, but Oregon's just so flawless the way they run their offense.
Well, let
I'd
me.
say over under for team total for Oregon would probably be 49.5.
There we go. Okay, so
Is
you're
that right?
you're setting it for you. The total for the game, right? 54.
Ooh.
No, that's okay. It's all right because we talk about Arizona State. You said Arizona State's a feisty team, right? Where is
I
this?
like their coach a lot. And well, here's another thing I want to tell you about this Oregon team is that Arizona State's head coach was Lanning's last offense coordinator.
Mm.
So there might be a little insider information there with.
So I like Bo Nix running the offense. I like Oregon running an offense. I like Oregon scoring points. Um, I like the over in this game, and I like Oregon to basically get us to that point and get us the over, and maybe have a helper with Arizona scoring or Arizona State maybe scoring a touchdown, maybe a touchdown field goal, maybe
Hmm.
something there. Arizona State has had a couple wins. You know, they had 2 wins over UCLA, um, and they lost by 8 points to Washington. We did see Arizona State give up 55 points to Utah 2 weeks ago. and Utah's not the Utah that we've seen in the past. So they're liable to give up the points. Now you'll look at this and you'll say, well, Arizona State's defense is pretty good. I mean, they've given up 274 points. They've given up basically that's 27.4 points per game this year. Um, in 665 plays. They're kind of the bottom half of the tier. I think Oregon's offense being led by Bo Nix, with Bo Nix trying to put up his Heisman performances, could probably get us to this cover as quickly. As they could cover this on their own without much help needed from Arizona State.
Hmm.
Um, Oregon flying, I like their offense. Troy Franklin for Oregon is probably the key to this. Um, Junior wide receiver. He's had a great year. He's 60 receptions for over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns. Um, they have to account for him. I think, with last week, he had 2 catches, 147 yards, and a touchdown against USC. I think Oregon's going to have a field day with this team. I think Arizona State is going to kind of, they know what they're getting in for, but I don't think they know exactly the level of intensity and high power performance that Bo Nix needs to put up. So I think they could get shell shocked here, get punched in the face really, really hard, and maybe come into something late in the fourth quarter where they score points to, kind of make them feel better about themselves. But I think Oregon covers this on their own, honestly. I think it's easy. I think the total's too low. I think any game Oregon's in, I think the total should be more in the 60s. So over 54 is easy for me, and like you said, I'm very confident in going 3-0 this week. I'm very
Yeah.
confident in my
Well,
picks.
vibes are high over here for
Really
how
good.
low the results have been.
Yeah. So hey, positive still.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you are.
So yeah, that's three for me. Do you have three? Are you
Yeah,
done?
I already gave three. Let's look at some games real quick before we get into any other discussion about this week. I think Louisville Miami is a good game to watch over here. That'll answer a lot of questions about where those teams are at. I had a couple games on here that I just wanted to. Utah Arizona is going to be a really good game.
Mm-hmm.
I might be leaning Utah on that one. Georgia Tennessee, like you brought up, Illinois Iowa need Illinois to win out here for a futures bet that I have. I mean, UCLA USC this weekend. That's great. We have a
What's the total in that game?
total in that game is sitting around 65.5 right now, right off a LSU loss. Oh, and I need Auburn to beat New Mexico State to hit that season win total. That came from the depths, and most of all, the game I'll be watching. Well, Missouri, Florida also, but the game I'll be watching closest this weekend. I've been talking about it all year. Michael Penix Jr. goes to Oregon State. I just need him to stay healthy. I will not be betting this game because I have a rooting interest for Michael Penix Jr. to throw 218 more yards before he gets hurt. Just I don't even care if you actually Washington is the underdog in this game,
Yeah, by
so
two and
that's
a
very
half now.
interesting, which has me even more scared. All I need him is to hold on and get me this 218 yards from my largest future bet of the year to hit. Michael Penix Jr. over 3,750.5 yards passing this year. So I just need Michael to stay in there, give me my 218 yards, and let's and lose. Also, I don't mind if you lose because that probably puts Bo Nix as a
Yeah,
semi
it
lock.
does.
So yeah, give just give me the 218, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I saw that they were underdogs there, but I do see them. I would like them to lose. I want them to lose. I'm looking at this Nebraska Wisconsin game. Total's at 37. It's dropping to 36 and a half.
I might be looking at the over there.
I think I am looking at the over there.
Wisconsin has like done such a bad job this year of like transitioning with Luke Fickle. Now you can't expect Wisconsin to like just be changed overnight with him,
No,
but
no, no. But
so
going against Nebraska, I mean,
yeah, they're lucky that game's at home. Both these
yeah.
teams fighting for bowl eligibility too. We got like I know next week's rivalry week, but we got some great like semi rivalries here that's going on this weekend.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm, damn it, I'm looking already at next week.
Before we
I'm
go,
so excited.
before we go, quick rundown of the CFP rankings.
Yeah, yeah. So, like we said, Georgia overtakes Ohio State at the number one slot. Uh, Ohio State covered last week, so this is where I really, really don't know what their criteria really is because to me, if you cover a spread, I feel like you shouldn't be punished in your ranking. Is that am I wrong to
For
think
Ohio
that?
State.
I
Um,
listen, I don't care that they're one, two, three, or four.
I
Like
just I think Georgia finally got some sort of, well, I don't believe, I think Ole Miss is ranked higher than they are actually like skilled. But on paper, that win against Ole Miss, actually,
hmm
finally beating Missouri and then Ole Miss back
And
to back.
you know what, the Notre Dame is probably hurting Ohio State as well.
Notre Dame's hurting Ohio State, and Missouri is helping the shit out of Georgia right now.
Oh
Man,
yeah.
that Missouri, especially after beating Tennessee last week. So you're gonna tell me Georgia's gonna go on and especially if they win this week, they're gonna go on a streak of beating a good Missouri team, a pretty good Ole Miss team, and Tennessee this week. I mean, in the eyes
Yeah.
of the voters, they're gonna keep them first. I do think this makes the loser of Ohio State Michigan fall out
Yeah.
of the playoff now.
100% it does.
So I'm still standing on what I said last week. My prediction that I gave on November 8th, 2023, of what the college football playoff will be is one Georgia, two Michigan, three Oregon, four Texas. I'm still standing on it. I know Oregon and Texas are sitting at 6 and 7, but all we need is Ohio State to lose. Sorry, I'm not going to actively be rooting against them. But we need Ohio State to lose to Michigan. We need Florida State to someone to call them out as frauds, and we think Washington loses this week to Oregon State, or if not, in the Pac-12 championship, which will bump both our guys, Oregon and Texas, in. So I'm still standing on it from November 7th to the day it's announced. Those are my four teams.
Yeah, I don't think Florida State's in. I think Florida State's gonna be dropped. Um, yeah, I like Oregon. I like Texas. I would just flip Michigan and Ohio State because I'm gonna root for Ohio State. And sorry, I'm gonna root against America's team in Michigan.
I know you just hate that.
I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah, that is, come on. I mean, I think it is very American to lie, cheat, and steal, Jim Harbaugh.
It really is.
It
I guess
really
that's what he
is.
was going for. GTA is coming out soon, so you got to get into the lying and
And
cheating.
and man, so one silver lining if Florida State does get into the playoffs, it's gonna be fade, fade, fade.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
betting against them and I'm betting all spreads and betting left and right.
yeah,
They've just played a weak ass schedule. So
100%.
their best win is at Clemson, by the way. I don't even, well, no, that's better than the neutral site LSU win,
Hmm.
especially with how LSU, yeah. The four loss Clemson team that they beat at home that took them to overtime. That Keon Coleman just went beast mode and took the game over. That's their best win. So let's,
Yeah,
you know, I I hope I'm right. Um, I'll be proven right eventually because this Florida State team, even if they make the playoffs, they're not winning the national championship.
fuck no,
I
man.
wonder whatever the no bet is on that.
All right, well, 1 week closer to rivalry games, to conference championships, to the bowl season. We're getting there. All right, quick recap of your picks. We'll hit them with socials, then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, Fuji bets week 12. Damn,
Yep.
season's flown by.
Yeah, it sucks.
Week 12 picks. Kansas State -7.5. Get that now. It's only available on ESPN Bet. It's still available, I think. I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
for sure.
I
It
didn't even
was
sign
it
up with
was 5 minutes
ESPN
before we
Bet.
started recording. Georgia Tech -6.5 and Oklahoma State -7.
All right, and then I got the over 54 in Oregon, Arizona State, Georgia -10 against Tennessee, and then Rutgers plus 20.5 against Penn State. And I'm confident that we're going to go 6-0. I'm saying it right now. We're going 6-0 on the
It's
pod
gonna
this
be a
week.
6-0 week
This is going to be
heading into Thanksgiving.
fantastic. Into
Yes.
Thanksgiving, we're going to eat in Thanksgiving, dude. I can't wait. All right, give them socials.
Follow me at Fuji Bets. Follow Dan at DPosk13 and follow the pod at CFP_pod.
Right, you can get the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. That's Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. I don't know, everywhere. Just wherever you
everywhere.
listen to a podcast, we are there. Look us up, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Let us know what you think, what your best bets of the week are, and if you think we're wrong that we're going to go 6-0 this week. But I'm feeling good about it. All right. Do you have anything else you wanted to add before we got out of here?
I am good.
As usual. All right. That's Fuji. I'm Dan. We'll see you next week.